So, welcome back then to this last video in our little dinosaur tutorial series. We've had quite a lot of stuff go on already. We've done an awful lot of work, seen an awful lot of techniques and fixes thrown in as we've worked through. And we've gotten to a result that is really rather good. All we need now is to do the final polish and the final plussing on top of all of the work that we've done already. So we should probably begin with a review of our achievements so far. We'll give the whole thing a play here from the start so we can see him, coming through his entire motion, doing everything that we've done so far. He's looking quite nice, and of course that whole beginning section is still as we left it before. Comes along and checks his little food, has a little snack, and then of course he's interrupted. And, ooh, scared now, what do I do? I'm out of here. Off I go. Run, run, run. And that largely is it for our guy here. We would, of course, want to go through with a fine-tooth comb, checking for any little errors that we might have. And then, of course, our next stage is to work on to, smoothing and splining and any of the final polish work that we need to do there. Of course, what we have done at the moment is we've only done our one little dinosaur fella here. We've still got Big Dino, who has so far yet to make an appearance other than just being stood there rather woodenly. And so I won't in this tutorial go through the whole process of animating Big Dino here, because of course an awful lot of his body movements, how he behaves and so on is going to be very similar to our little guy here. He is largely the same physiology, but he's going to behave differently in terms of his size, particularly his weight and elements of that nature. So what I will show you is I've started to do his initial approach here, which of course will be his initial, coming out of the woods there like this. So let's just take a look at exactly what we have got going on here, because as I say, it is very largely the same as the work that we've already done on Small Dino. But there are some interesting differences. First of all, notice that I've gone for an 18 frame step cycle here. So, he is considerably slower in his cycle time, but he is still covering quite a distance, of course, because of his increased size, his larger stride, and so on. Secondly, notice that after the contact point here, he gets his foot flat before he really makes this dip down. So he's really getting the weight, he's getting that foot secure before he shifts the weight onto it. But notice that not only am I shifting him down more, I'm shifting him forwards ever so slightly. So you get this little pump of acceleration in the forwards direction. Again, this helps to sell the weight of the character coming in like this. You can also notice I've done something else slightly different, and that's in his rotation. What you can see I've done is as he comes down to his dip there, I've actually pitched his body up slightly, and conversely, when he's in the passing pose here, I've pitched his body down slightly rather than the other way round. This again helps to sell the idea of his weight, especially of course taking into consideration that he's got the enormous weight of this tail acting as a counterbalance to his front body, his upper body. So as he lifts himself up with the forward propulsion, the weight of the front of his body essentially begins to drag down on his hips, creating some, forward downward torque here. And that is, of course, counterbalanced mostly by his tail. But due to the forward movement, that's enough to just give him that little dip. Whereas conversely, when he comes here and just drops like that, the big weight of the tail coming down helps to pitch his body up ever so slightly. And so we get this kind of a movement on him here. And of course, if we see that in playback, we'll see indeed that it looks pretty nice, natural. It is again another alternative that you can put in on the cycle here. We don't know exactly what the walk cycle would have been like for such creatures, but viewing it back, this does seem like a pretty good interpretation of what we might expect to go on. Also notice the choice that I'm making here. I have just got him, walking out of the woods at just what I would presume to be a fairly standard walking pace. You know, why don't I have him come charging out? Of course, you know, is he trying to eat little Dino? What is his motivation essentially here? And what I'm really going for, what I'm thinking, is of course the fact that little Dino is, you know, small by comparison. It's still a 6 foot large beast, but we presume that he would be able to run reasonably quickly, and it's perhaps not outside the realms of possibility to presume that he could potentially outrun a big dino like this. So perhaps Big Dino knows from experience that he can't catch such a little fella unless he manages to take him by surprise in, you know, a very close quarters fashion. And so consequently, what I'm presuming Big Dino's motivation here to be is simply to scare him off, because Big Dino wants the food item here. As such, he's just coming out of the woods, big and imposing, coming up, making a stop, at which point he'll do a roar at our little Dino and completely scare him off, securing the food item for himself. And so that thought process has informed the decision here about just having him come out at this slow, or slow-ish, lumbering pace with no great urgency to try and attack, kill or eat little Dino. With all of Big Dino's actions keyed in then, our scene is basically complete, and we're pretty much complete in terms of our principal animation. We're all done. All that really remains is for us to go in and start doing our final polish and clean up, of course taking all of our animation into curves so as we get it nice and smooth, and of course do any little final fixes on errors that we spot along the way. So that's what we're going to do for the last part of this whole exercise and tutorial, so let's get busy with it. What I'll do first of all then is grab all of the controls here for small Dino. We'll work on him. Let's get TCB in our animation toolbox, and we can just set curve, turn everything there into TCB splines. Of course that will have introduced some slides and headers, so we're going to use the good old quick clean filter. So everything should have turned out pretty good from that. We of course give it a look through, a little watch to see how everything is appearing, see if there's anything clearly obvious that's, you know, gone wrong or made an error along the way. Everything so far looks pretty good. Give them a good all-round look here to make sure that everything's looking as it should. That's quite nice. That little jiggle there works well, and his pop into turn is pretty good. Okay, so that's sorted out all of those. Now of course we do have these slide pivots going on, so we want to really curve those off as well, even though everything's looking pretty decent. I mean, you know, if you are happy, of course, you can leave them linear, but of course to get, you know, the proper full action, you really do want them splined. Now let's remember, of course, that as one stops rotating, the other one starts rotating here. So if I grab both of those, and we're going to grab their graphs here, let's get their heading rotations. There they are. If we just set them all to TCB and 1, then of course what we see here is of course the fact that you've got this ease in, out on both. So this probably will cause us some weird sort of action, of course, as you know, the rotation is spread across both nulls, but one sort of, you know, stops moving and then the other picks up. So you've got this sort of, you know, turn that decelerates and then picks up speed again. As such, what you really want is these two keys to sort of wind up at the same angle. Now what we can do, we can try setting them to 0, and whilst of course that cuts this one in, that one's now getting this, you know, rollover from its earlier state. We could put a hold in there to take care of it, but it still doesn't, you know, straight out as much as we'd like. So what's actually going to be easiest here on all of these guys is to use a good old Bezier spline. Handles are a bit messy initially, so let's just grab those and try and pull them in so as we can get them somewhere nice and visible like this. No need to be too tidy for the minute. Okay, right, there we go. I can see what everything is now. So what I want to do is, of course, on this one where we've got the final piece of rotation, I'll do a nice, you know, gentle ease in or slow into it, and of course I'll do a slow out on the first rotation there. Whereas here, what I can do is I can set the handle at an angle like that there, and of course I can do the same thing over here, give it an angle like this, but what I can do is, holding down Alt, I can break the handle here and bring that back to flat like this. And of course, if need be, I could do the same thing here. And there we go. That gives us a nice smooth action into our turn like that. Now what we can see is that he's maybe starting to rotate a little too swiftly, and you'll find probably that you need to just massage these handles slightly so as you get a nice smooth rotation across the two nulls. What I'm watching here, of course, is his root item, and that seems to be performing reasonably well there as he moves across. If we just see him in playback, of course, that's what really helps us to spot how well we've done, and I think it's pretty decent. Looks alright scrubbed, and it looks alright played. Tease that handle there just a little bit. Yeah, there we go. Okay, that's nice. So that's worked out those guys. What we'll want next then, of course, is going to be the other two slide pivots that we use later on. So once again, we'll find those curves there, their positions in time here, and let's just have a look across here now that we're all splined up. We'll just do the exact same thing, make these guys Beziers like this, get their handles into an initial position somewhere. Okay, and I'm gonna break handles, these start points of course, to hold them flat in their rotations there. And of course I'm gonna break handles on the outs well to make sure that they maintain nice and flat positioning. Got a double key there, that's okay, I can either get rid of it or just flatten the handle, doesn't matter. And then I can work all of my in-betweens here. So that wants to, obviously a little slow out for the initial key there, but it still wants to be moving reasonably swiftly. What we can perhaps do is take this handle off that midway keyframe and just line it up with the next key, and of course take the handle of that key and line it up with this one, so of course that linearizes this whole in between. There we go. I'll work into that from here and match up the outcoming angle there, and let's see how that looks. There we go, turn. And of course don't forget that I've got his root item here continuing to turn beyond this keyframe, the out of the last slide pivot, so I don't need to ease into that. I want to keep that almost linear really. I may not even have needed to use Beziers there. So I think that the rotation between those two is okay. What we see of course is that the root does this little shift to the side, and it happens right at this crossover point. You'll notice right there it does this. It's coming one way around, it starts to dip in here, and then it jumps back out again. So I think the easiest thing, let's have a look, is to try and work on what's happening with that root. Aha! Okay, you see this little kink on the Z channel there? Let's have a little look. Yep, you can see where the Z channel is. So it's quite plausible that what I need to do is to just bring that, aha, it's actually this away. Okay, out more like that. There we go. That smooths him off quite nicely there. We might even bring it out just a touch more. There we go. So we're sort of having to marry up the actions of three items here, the two slide pivots and the root, to make sure that that whole motion remains smooth and constant. So we'll just double check it here from the perspective view, and yeah, that's looking pretty good. Give it a little play, make sure it seems nice. Yeah, okay, pretty happy with that. So what I also want to take note of is what's going on throughout all of these points. Let's see, okay, so the tail comes up there, and we had a little hold for it where it sort of overlaps. So let's grab both of those, and we can see, of course, that it comes up and it sort of drops back there. And what we really want to happen is for there to be a little bit of, you know, soft follow through. Of course, when we were keying this, we would have gone and put in little hold frames, wouldn't we? In fact, I believe that we did do so, but the quick clean filter has done away with some of those. So perhaps it would have been better just to use the hold flat to tidy up the curves rather than the quick clean that also clears out the extra, you know, flat frames. So I'm just going to come 7 and put a keyframe there. I'm also going to switch my options back to TCB at this point. Let's make sure that that's all TCB spline there. And what I'm going to do is just take that down. Let's try 0.8, shall we? No, perhaps some more. There we go. And that just gives a little wobble after that. There we go. The tail comes up. Yeah, and it just sits gently like that for a second. Actually going to extend this ever so slightly because I think it's a little sharp at the moment. May as well set those right to 0. Okay, that's better. So we get that little, you know, follow through wobble going on there in the tail. And we've got another one happening here. So I'll come another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 like this. Put a keyframe there. Set their tensions back to 0. So that gives us another little bit of wobble. That frame potentially can come even further out. Let's make that even softer. Yeah, that works nicely. Let's give that a watch. Yeah, that works nicely, I think. Okay, very good. Okay, so that's taking his stop point there. And we might, of course, notice that there are other items where we really want this sort of thing to happen at this point when he's doing this, you know, bolt up. We can see that there's keys there on the main root item. So let's take a look at those, see what we've got going on there. Okay, so we should have a hold here-ish. So let's take those guys and push them back to 0. So that gives a little gentle softening on the follow through for the root there. Then I would have had another one here, I believe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, let's say. Key him there, and we'll set those back to 0 as well. I could perhaps bring those hold in ones up to 1. And so you see this basically, there we go. That might even be a little too soft. No, actually that's pretty good. And then I think I'll have another one here where we see we've got another little shift. So I'll put one there with the tension set to 1, and I'll reduce the tension on these guys back to 0 again. So we get a little soft, tiny soft bounce on it. And then what I'm going to do when he comes out of this, we never really keyed up an anticipation, did we? So I'm going to come 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, lay a key there, make sure that those are of course set to tension 1. Now come to this frame, and I'm just going to nudge his Z position back there ever so slightly, just to give him that little anticipatory nudge, like that. So there he is, and off he goes. Wonderful. And I'm also going to take him up ever so slightly in his Y there. There we go. So he does that little, just that little wib before he comes in like that. So that's very nice. The foot as well, we had him pick up and hanging that around. So let's make sure that we've got some sort of soft action taking place there. Got a little bit here, that's good. And he moves it down across 8 frames here, so I want some post in that. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, let's say. Let's find that here. There it is. So I'll set you guys to have a hold 1, and then the previous one I'll also reduce back to 0 there. There we go, that gives a little softening. Now we see him do that little drop on the foot. I want another soft little point there. I do. So I'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, let's say. Same sort of thing here. There we go. So he does that little, just got a tiny little dodge on it. That's good. So let's see how that looks so far. Yeah, that's nice. Okay, yeah, that's good. I should probably have something similar taking place on the head and neck here. So I'll have a little soft hold over there. He moves here, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Another little soft hold there. He does that move. I'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And a little soft hold there. Let's just grab all of those rotations then for those 2 items. See the whole section here. And we can see where my soft holds are. So I'll just grab the, end point of those soft holds here. And of course we'll make sure that those are all 1. and then I'll grab the roll-ins to them like this, so the out point of each of those moves here. Maybe they don't want to go all the way, well, they might want to go all the way to 0, though that might be a little strong on some of them. I think that one's going to be a little too strong, so let's tighten that up. We can potentially even just grab it and move it out. And yep, if we look across those, that does seem to be working quite nicely, so happy with that. I can also notice along the way here some stuff in the curves, such as we see these tweens that somehow got created there. Those are unnecessary. This is another way, is to actually look through the curves themselves. That, I think there, at some point is overshooting, so I'm going to bring up that there to smooth that in more. That's a little harsh, so I'm going to tighten that as well. See if we can see any others along the way. I see this bit on one of the pitch channels there. That can use a spot of tightening, as can this heading over there. I can accentuate whatever this move is by pushing that slightly negative there. Along here we're looking good, looking good. It's all looking very smooth. We've got a nice little hold there. I'll just tighten that out so it's still got a little bit of roll. And then somewhere along here, yes, we might have another little soft hold out. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 there. Do the same on that, and of course we'll reduce those. We've got another little soft hold out occurring over here, or a little soft in between rather, so let's just soften that. Something similar taking place here. Of course this is all head and neck, so this can be, softened more. Obviously, these holds you do want to be flattened on things like the foot goals and whatnot, but here on the head and neck we can really, soften them up, which helps create a little bit more life into our motion. So that there all seems pretty good. More opportunity for one here. So I'm not taking all of these to 0, many I'm putting to 0.2 or 0.3 or something of that nature. This is all looking pretty smooth. I reckon that can do with a little tightening there, as it's a sort of a quick reversal. We've got a little over top swing here, so let's just pinch that just gently there. I'm also going to counter swing this frame. I've got a little near hold here, so just tighten that across like this. And also I'm going to tighten that so it doesn't underswing so heavily there. Again, we see a little soft, a little mid hold here. It's only a couple of frames, so what I'm going to do is take both of these and I'm just going to put them to, let's say, 0.5, as that gives them a little bit of rollover in that period. Even though it's very short and sharp, I've got a little bump occurring here, so I'm going to tighten that up. Keep looking along my curve, it's all pretty good. Okay, smashing, and then this whole bounce here, that's the run cycle at the end. So let's check out the actual root item again, see for any similar occurrences. Okay, and I've got a couple of little ones in this section. I can perhaps have a little bit of a softened roll there, something of that nature. This is holding before he moves. Let's see, where does that actually equate to? That's that little thing that we already took care of. Okay, so that's nice. I think that's a little harsh here, so I'm going to tighten that. Notice I'm just looking at the rotation channel here for the root presently. Okay, we've got this point where he arrives. So what I'm going to do is go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 here, let's say, and put a key there, and then I'll be wanting to grab all of the position and rotation for here, making sure that that one is indeed set to 1, and the previous I'm going to set to, let's say, 0.3. So there we go, that gives a little softness just in there. Again, there's a similar thing going on here. Let's check that out. That's really between these two, which at the moment are both 1, so I'm going to set those to 0.5. So that just gives a little soft roll in between them. Again, there's another extended hold here, 0.3 those, so that gives a little soft in between roll there. Again, we push in here, and let's do another little soft bounce, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I think. And I'll tighten that one up, soften this down to a 0.3 there. There's a little soft nudge. Let's get a slightly better look at it here. Yeah, that works. And then over there, where he does his bounce, that's definitely going to want that long hold there. That definitely wants to be softened out. So let's take both of those right down to a 0.2. There we go. We get a lovely little rollover at that action. Good. And then pretty much all of the rest of these are in constant motion. So let's give his entire move a little playback here. We should see that we are just got that little bit of added softness going on in his move. It's pretty good. That's all very nice. The tail looks lovely. See that the tail's got a couple of little sharp endings on it, so we can do some of that, same offset follow through little bounce in the TCB that we've been doing here on the neck and root. Perhaps also do something similar for the spine, although the spine we can possibly keep as is because we get the little bounce extra in the head and neck, and so it gives us a sense of the follow through there. So lastly then, I will just grab those tail controllers and we'll give them a similar treatment to make sure that everything's looking nice here. Again, I see these in-betweens that have occurred on the heading here for this tail control, or both tail controllers, and they're not really needed, so we can take that. That softens that curve out more. That's a little overdone, so I'll just pinch that back slightly. Same here on this pitch one, that's a little over, so just pinch it off. Those guys where I've got that hold out, I really want to tighten the incoming on the end there. That little over the top point there, I'll just tighten off to, there we go. Some more little unnecessary in-betweens there in heading I'm going to get rid of to smooth out that whole curve section. And I see the same occurring over here, so let's get rid of those. Now we've got a stop that occurs here, so let's put a little softened point. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 I think. We'll put a little softened point there, make sure that that's a full one, and these previous ones leading into it, let's make them a 0.3. Again, I got this little hold there, so let's bring that down to a 0.3. I've got this little change here, which is after that point, so again 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 I think in this case. Let's key it there, tense that up, and of course relax this off. There we can see just the little soft bounce that has created again. It's all looking nice. That there is pretty good. I see a very momentary hold here. I don't want that to go too crazy, so I'm going to put that at a 0.5. I also see this tightening here, so I'm just going to bring that up so that whole curve smooths over that point a bit better. I also see a very rapid change again here, so I'll tighten that one up. Same on these high tops, the heading over here. We'll tighten those, which of course, broadens out our curve there. I see again there's a high occurring there, so let's clean that. Yeah, lots of action going on here. Again, I see a harsh lump. I'm going to smooth that guy out. Now I've got this double take there, so it will really tighten that off an awful lot. And also another hiccup occurring here, so let's tighten that out. And that pretty much appears to be the tail. So let's go and watch him through and keep an eye on his tail action. And that's looking pretty smooth, pretty sweet. Yeah, lots of nice life in it. It's not coming to a dead standstill. Liking the appearance of it. Yeah, it's just moving around. Of course, it's meant to be stiff, but it wouldn't just, stop dead. There it is, just got this little bit of weave and waggle in it. Very nice. There we go. Then, of course, once we've done the same on Big Dino and finished up his splining, we really are finished. So we'll set up a couple of camera angles and we'll watch our whole action taking place. So we get this nice little animation that, sort of sells what's going on through the motions of the characters and, of course, through the, photography of the camera angles. So we get our little Dino, he's coming over to have a snack, and uh-oh, there we go, and roar, and he's out of there, and there we go. That's a finished animation. Certainly what we've got here has been a pretty long-winded and expansive project, but it's given us a lot of opportunity to play around with different types of character moves, get them working in the ways that they really need to, whilst being able to use our skills in, basic repetitive body mechanics, such as the walk and run cycles here, but whilst of course also messing it up with some individualized actions, a bit of character, and of course some interaction between two characters here that really helps to push the whole thing to a new level and gives it a real sense of stuff happening, not just more, dry cycling and what have you. So there we go. A very long project, but hopefully it's contained an awful lot of useful examples and information, and I hope you'll have a play at trying something of your own with these or other characters.